Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Friday, 11th July, 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. South Korea, Japan, and the U.S. defense chiefs met in Seoul, emphasizing trilateral cooperation and conducting joint aerial drills as a show of force against North Korea. The drills in the meeting also come in response to growing cooperation between Russia and North Korea, evidenced by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's planned visit to North Korea. Japan's increased defense spending is seen as a move towards developing enhanced capabilities. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's remarks about Japan not being underestimated have sparked fears of potential trade tensions and tariffs from the United States. The UN Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women has again urged Japan to adopt a dual surname system for married couples. Minimum wage discussions for fiscal year 2025 are underway, with the current average hourly wage at $1,055. The summer vacation budget for Japanese citizens has reached a record high, increasing by 26.4%. The Crown Prince and his family visited the Hiroshima atomic bombing exhibition. On acquired esotropia, an eye condition linked to smartphone overuse, is increasingly affecting young people. The Game Preservation Society, dedicated to preserving Japanese video games, received support to continue its work. China is focused on strengthening international ties and exploring new technologies. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of Australia is visiting China to improve bilateral relations. China has removed its prohibition on Japanese beef, which was in effect since 2001 due to mad cow disease concerns. In trade, China is investigating the use of stablecoins and other digital assets, with the state asset watchdog urging state-owned enterprises to study digital currencies. To restore fish populations, the country has dismantled 300 dams and closed the majority of hydropower plants on a significant Yangtze River tributary. In Beijing, a Chinese-built maglev train was unveiled, with expectations that it will reach speeds of 600 km/h, potentially cutting travel time between Beijing and Shanghai to 2.5 hours. Due to safety concerns, lymphatic venous anastomosis, LVA, a surgical treatment for Alzheimer's disease, has been banned by Beijing until extensive clinical trials are carried out. China also introduced the first laser topping robot for cotton in the world, which was created to address issues with cotton production mechanization in Xinjiang. After faulty units caught fire on commercial flights, Chinese manufacturers of power banks are being closely monitored, which prompted an immediate ban by the Civil Aviation Administration of China, KAC. Turning to relations between the United States and China, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi convened to address trade disputes, with Rubio indicating a strong possibility of discussions between Trump and Xi. Following constructive discussions between their top diplomats, both countries decided to enhance dialogue at all levels and deepen collaboration. Wang Yi voiced his expectation that Washington would engage with China in an equal, respectful, and mutually beneficial manner. The United States aims to decrease its reliance on rare earths from China by 2028, with the Pentagon investing $400 million to become the biggest stakeholder in American minor MP material. Julie Ide, an American official who engaged with opposition activists during the 2019 Hong Kong protests, is expected to become the next U.S. Consul General in the city. In the latest from Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is traveling to China to strengthen ties, amidst doubts about the U.S. AUKUS submarine deal, which was spurred by China's military buildup. Russia's intensified attacks on civilians in Ukraine have drawn condemnation from the European Union, which is threatening new sanctions. These attacks included drone strikes on Kharkiv, Ukraine, that damaged a maternity hospital and injured at least 9 people. France considers Russia its main enemy in Europe, posing a lasting close threat, following Poland's order to close the Russian consulate in Krakow over accusations of Moscow's involvement in a Warsaw shopping center fire. Russia is closing the Polish consulate in Kaliningrad. After 25 years of monitoring elections and advocating for voters' rights, the Russian election watchdog Golos is disbanding due to increasing pressure from authorities. Dubai remains a key refuge for wealthy Russians, including record producer Iosif Prigozhin, a supporter of President Vladimir Putin. Air attacks on Ukraine have intensified this week, with drones and missiles targeting the northern regional capital. Ukraine's top general reports at least 50,000 Russian troops have massed across the border. The Kremlin is awaiting a major statement from U.S. President Donald Trump regarding Russia. Turning to the United States, President Trump is scheduled to visit Texas on Friday to assess flood damage. He has expressed frustration with Russia's Putin regarding the war in Ukraine, indicating a resumption of U.S. weapons shipments to Ukraine. Trump announced he would make a major statement on Russia on Monday, but provided no specifics. In Ukraine, Russia has intensified its air attacks this week, using drones and missiles, particularly targeting Kharkiv, the country's second-largest city. A recent drone strike damaged a maternity hospital and injured 9 people. Ukraine's top general reports that at least 50,000 Russian troops have massed across the border. In Poland, the Russian consulate in Krakow was ordered to close following accusations that Moscow orchestrated a fire at a Warsaw shopping center. Russia responded by closing the Polish consulate in Kaliningrad. Iran, still facing scrutiny after its recent conflict, saw imprisoned Nobel laureate Narges Mohammadi report death threats believed to be from Iranian security services. The Norwegian Nobel Committee expressed serious concerns for her safety. Iran also confirmed they were holding a teenage French-German cyclist who had gone missing in the previous month. The Pentagon revealed that an Iranian ballistic missile struck a Qatari airbase during the recent attacks, causing minor damage. An Israeli official asserted that Iran still holds enriched uranium. Experts are analyzing how quickly Iran could restore its nuclear program if the U.S. and Israel were to strike, especially targeting a uranium processing site in Isfahan. Amid these tensions, the U.S. State Department warned Americans against traveling to Iran, citing safety risks and launching a website to provide detailed information. Canada's trade relations with the U.S. face renewed strain as President Trump threatens a 35% tariff on Canadian goods, contingent on Canada's help in stopping fentanyl trafficking. This ultimatum complicates ongoing efforts to finalize a new trade agreement by July 21. Simultaneously, 6 U.S. Congress members from Wisconsin and Minnesota are pressing Canada for a detailed wildfire mitigation strategy to reduce smoke reaching the United States. Meanwhile, a heat warning has been issued for eastern regions, including Montreal, southern Ontario, and Toronto, with persistently hot and humid conditions expected until Thursday. Myanmar's military leader, Min Aung Hlaing, openly admired Donald Trump. He also sought relief from international sanctions. Airstrikes in the Sagaing region killed at least 23 people seeking shelter. The UN reports over 147,000 Rohingya refugees fled to Bangladesh in 18 months. Chinese-led rare earth mining in Myanmar's conflict zones is causing severe environmental damage. Arsenic and toxic metals are polluting Thailand's Kok River. ASEAN leaders want Myanmar to delay elections until a peace plan is agreed upon. New Zealand is experiencing a period of recovery after a landslip in Muriwai, with authorities clearing some evacuated properties for residents to return, while others remain restricted. As severe weather subsides across the country, cleanup operations are underway, though the North Island might still face sporadic rainfall. Meanwhile, former Black Caps coach Andy Moles is stirring controversy with his upcoming book, which includes criticism aimed at Brendan McCullum and other former members of the national cricket team. Australia has come under pressure for its ongoing presence on X. This follows anti-Semitic comments made by Grok, X's AI chatbot. Grok praised Hitler, sparking controversy. Government advertising on X was paused after Elon Musk's acquisition. The Finance Department said the pause wasn't due to Grok's remarks. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and other politicians still use X, despite a plan to fight anti-Semitism. Australia is also balancing its relationships with the US and China. Its historical distance could be an advantage in this situation. The United States is locked in a power competition with China. Air dominance is a key area of this struggle. The US military is conducting coordination tests. These tests involve fighters and loyal wingman drones. The goal is to maintain a strategic advantage. Ukraine is actively launching drone attacks on Moscow and other Russian regions. These strikes target infrastructure supporting Russia's war efforts. Ukraine states the attacks are retaliation for ongoing Russian strikes. One death has been reported in Russia's southwest due to these attacks. Ukraine has denied allegations made by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán concerning the death of a Hungarian-Ukrainian dual citizen. Orbán claimed the individual was beaten to death by Ukrainian authorities after being conscripted. Donald Trump is considering a plan to supply weapons to Ukraine through NATO allies, potentially marking a change in strategy prompted by stalled negotiations with Vladimir Putin. Turning to the United Kingdom, HSBC has withdrawn from the Net Zero Banking Alliance, NZBA. This action makes it the first UK bank to leave the alliance, raising questions about its commitment to climate action. The EU is set to assess the UK-France migrant return agreement. This evaluation will ensure the agreement's compliance with legal standards before any approval is given. In Hungary, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has accused Ukrainian authorities of causing the death of a Hungarian-Ukrainian dual citizen. He alleges the individual was fatally beaten after being conscripted into the military. Ukraine has strongly refuted these accusations. Bangladesh moved to dismantle colonial-era protocols, with the caretaker government ending the practice of addressing female officials as Sir, a change aimed at promoting gender inclusivity. In India, investigators have determined that a Boeing 787 Dreamliner departed normally, with the engine's fuel switches mysteriously shutting off 3 seconds after takeoff. Meanwhile, President Trump's tariff threat against BRICS nations is being interpreted as a cautionary message to India, but is not expected to derail ongoing trade negotiations with the United States. France is currently navigating complex issues, including increased migrant crossings in the English Channel. The European Commission has voiced concerns over the alarming rise in these crossings. Elon Musk's social media platform X is also under investigation by French prosecutors for alleged data manipulation and fraud. The Avignon Festival, a major theatrical event, faces challenges due to rising temperatures. Adding a note of cultural exchange, the Bayeux Tapestry will be loaned to the United Kingdom for the first time in over 9 centuries. The United Kingdom is preparing to host the Bayeux Tapestry on loan from France. Tapestry, a significant historical artifact, illustrates the Norman invasion of England in 1066. The European Union is focusing on the rise in migrant crossings in the English Channel. Commission spokesman Marcus Lammert called the situation alarming and stressed the need for a robust response. The EU is also set to assess the migrant agreement between France and the UK. The ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza has seen nearly 800 Palestinians killed since the end of May while seeking food at aid distribution points, according to UN reports. Many deaths occurred near sites managed by the U.S. and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GAFA. The head of the UNRWA described Israel's actions in Gaza as turning it into a graveyard of children and starving. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, returned from Washington without a Gaza ceasefire agreement. Netanyahu maintained a positive relationship with US President Donald Trump by assuring him he is seeking an end to the war. The U.S. President also expressed his commitment to finding a peace deal. Kenya is grappling with escalating political tensions after the death of Boniface Kariuki, a vendor shot dead by police during anti-government protests in June. The officer accused of Kariuki's murder has been charged. His burial at his parents' farm in Kangama became a rallying point for outrage over alleged police brutality. Triggered by President William Ruto's order to shoot looters during the protests, opposition leaders are demanding his resignation. Human rights groups have called for police restraint amid ongoing violence. China continues to assert its stance on the South China Sea, with Foreign Minister Wang Yi dismissing the 2016 arbitration, ruling as a farce on its 9th anniversary. A Chinese maritime analyst predicts increased tensions and potential provocations between China and the Philippines in the disputed waters, especially given the Philippines' recent political developments. Turning to the Philippines, Senator Sean Gatchalian has proposed a bill to create a new civil registration system. This initiative aims to prevent fraudulent acquisition of Philippine citizenship by foreigners, spurred by concerns related to cases like that of Alice Guo. The Philippines also faces the prospect of escalating tensions with China in the South China Sea, particularly with President Marcos Jr.'s bolstered position after the midterm elections. In northern Iraq, Kurdish PKK fighters initiated a symbolic disarmament as part of ongoing peace efforts with Turkey. The fighters cast their weapons into a fire during a public ceremony. This event signifies the commencement of a disarmament process intended to resolve a conflict that has tragically resulted in more than 40,000 deaths. The University of Toronto might see benefits if Donald Trump returns to the White House, even with his previous annexation threats. Trump's policies could indirectly boost Canadian institutions. The dynamic could shift international students and researchers towards Canada. Meanwhile, Yale University has experienced a notable shift in its faculty. Professors Marty Shaw, Timothy Snyder, and Jason Stanley are departing. These specialists on fascism will assume senior roles at another, as yet unnamed, institution. The move signals a potential realignment of academic expertise. Cuba is facing renewed U.S. sanctions against its president, a move condemned by Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez, who asserted Cuba's sovereignty against U.S. influence. Adding to tensions, an appeals court reversed a plea deal in the 9/11 case at Guantanamo Bay, affirming the defense secretary's authority to overrule agreements made by Pentagon officials. Brazil witnessed a landmark moment as Ana Maria Gonçalves became the first black woman elected to the Brazilian Academy of Letters. Rio de Janeiro is vying to become the permanent headquarters of the BRICS Economic Alliance, having formally submitted its intention to President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. It has also come to light that former US President Donald Trump contemplated imposing tariffs on Brazil, possibly targeting oil, steel, and aircraft, with levies up to 50%, a move potentially intended to aid then-President Jair Bolsonaro. Pakistan experienced a tragic event in Balochistan as Baloch militants abducted passengers from several buses in the Job region on July 10, 2025. 9 passengers, identified as residents of Punjab province, were killed. The incident was confirmed by provincial government spokesman Shahid Ryan. In Inner Mongolia, Envision Group has begun operations at its new green ammonia production facility. This facility is powered entirely by a dedicated renewables grid. Developed by Envision Energy, the initial phase can produce 320,000 tons of green ammonia each year. CEO Zhang Lai views the project as a landmark achievement beyond its technological aspect. Cambodia's political landscape shifted as its parliament passed a constitutional amendment. This amendment empowers the government to create laws potentially revoking citizenships, raising alarms among human rights advocates who fear its use against political dissent. The specific exports Cambodia sends to the U.S. remain unspecified. Shifting focus to the United States, former President Trump advocated for a more assertive trade policy. He suggested that smaller nations should expect tariffs in the double digits if they fail to negotiate trade deals with the U.S. Indonesia recently made headlines with the appointment of a young boy, famous for his viral dance, moves on a boat, and practice of aura farming, as a tourism ambassador. Simultaneously, the Indonesian police have drawn criticism for showcasing advanced technology, including humanoid robots and robotic dogs. Critics suggest the resources should be directed towards addressing more immediate concerns. The police displayed 25 new machines during a parade, attended by President Prabowo Subianto. Northern Ireland is currently grappling with the fallout from a controversial bonfire in Moygashaw. The bonfire included effigies of migrants placed within a boat. A banner with the words "Stop the Boats" was displayed alongside the effigies. Authorities are now investigating the incident as a potential hate crime. The display has drawn widespread condemnation from political and religious leaders across the region. These leaders have characterized the bonfire as a racist and threatening act. Germany's Alternative for Germany, AAFD, is strategizing to leverage its current popularity into greater political power. Simultaneously, Chancellor Friedrich Merz, with Lars Klingbeil as the finance minister, plans to introduce tax cuts rooted in classical economic theories. Turning to Australia, a happy ending unfolded as Carolina Wilger, a 26-year-old German backpacker, was found alive in a remote region of Western Australia after a 12-day search. Serbia is witnessing an intensification of its protest movement, now 8 months strong, as demonstrators push for electoral reforms in the face of increasing police violence. These protesters are adopting new tactics to pressure the government. The movement initially began as peaceful demonstrations. The horrors of the Srebrenica massacre continue to resonate as Serb forces, in a designated safe area under UN peacekeeper protection, murdered 8,000 Muslim men and boys. This event stands as a stark reminder of the region's past conflicts. Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun has stated that while the country desires peace with Israel, it is currently not ready to normalize relations. This declaration was made after an Israeli strike within Lebanon caused 1 death. Shifting focus to Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is facing increasing pressure over rising inflation rates. Critics are questioning the government's spending policies as the cost of living continues to climb. Greece has frozen asylum claims, pointing to a surge of migrants from Libya that they characterize as an invasion. This action allows Greek officials to hold asylum seekers in detention centers for a maximum of 18 months. Transitioning to the United Kingdom, Liz Truss and a faction of the hard right are facing accusations of spreading alarm regarding purported schemes to repatriate the Parthenon marbles to Greece, even threatening legal repercussions. Egypt was struck by 2 separate fires at crucial telecommunications centers in Cairo this week. The initial blaze, on Monday at a central Cairo hub, tragically claimed 4 lives and severely interrupted internet connectivity, transportation networks, and banking operations across the city. Following this incident, a second, less severe fire occurred on Thursday at another major telecommunications hub. Fortunately, it was rapidly brought under control. Colombia's naval forces intercepted a narco-submarine, unmanned, and designed to carry 1.5 tons of cocaine, a first for the country. Simultaneously, Colombian authorities captured a suspected leader of the Andrangheta Mafia from Italy, who was allegedly operating within Latin America. China's move to create a development bank reflected discontent with existing global financial bodies. A U.S. senator described Singapore as vital in fighting against China, highlighting tensions in the region. Our European allies are increasing support for Ukraine's stability. With us involvement in planning, assistance includes logistical support and training for Ukraine's armed forces, plus efforts to secure Ukrainian airspace and the Black Sea. Following a dispute, Mexico stated there was no indication that a cocaine-laden plane came from El Salvador, according to a letter from President Nayib Bukele. Greece's parliament approved a 3-month suspension of asylum claims for migrants from Libya, prompting criticism from the UN Refugee Agency and a top European human rights official. South Sudan accepted 8 deportees from the U.S. Talks are also underway between Rwanda and the Trump administration for a similar agreement regarding third country nationals. Most members of ASEAN received letters from us, President Donald Trump, about potential tariffs ranging from 20 to 40%. The International Criminal Court suspects war crimes and crimes against humanity in Darfur. A refugee camp in Outre, Chad, is housing people fleeing Darfur. In Belize, a Maya ruler's tomb was discovered, containing a Reja Dite, mosaic death mask, and vessels shaped like animals, offering insights into the past. Sweden saw the location of Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson's private residence revealed through data from bodyguards on the Strava fitness app, potentially exposing sensitive information about secret meetings and royal family holidays. European Union Commissioner Marta Kos from Slovenia highlighted the peace-promoting aspect of EU membership, particularly in the context of EU enlargement and the potential accession of Serbia, Moldova, Ukraine, and other European nations. Nigeria is pushing back against U.S. attempts to repatriate migrants and foreign prisoners, with Foreign Minister Yusuf Tuggar invoking public enemy to illustrate Nigeria's position on the matter. Myanmar's unregulated heavy rare earth mining, occurring amidst ongoing conflict, is causing significant environmental damage, including the poisoning of the Kok River, which extends into Thailand. Local populations have reported adverse effects stemming from this pollution. Argentina's Perito Moreno Glacier, situated in Santa Cruz province and previously considered stable, is now undergoing rapid mass loss, with scientific studies indicating an annual thickness reduction of up to 8 meters. UNESCO has added new sites to its World Heritage List, including ancient Aboriginal rock art locations and various sites in Africa, as announced by the UN Cultural Organization. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele has reportedly garnered favor with the Trump administration by agreeing to incarcerate more than 200 deportees. Fiji has seen the installation of a new chief from a well-known dynasty, in a quiet ceremony only punctuated by the sounds of birds. Georgia has cautioned that a mere ceasefire would not deter Russia from its ambitions of dominance in Ukraine. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.